Hi everyone, my name is Amy Palmer and
my name is Brooke Miller.
And we're having a weird little tech difficulty where we're like really squished.
Yeah, so
we're gonna have to figure this out for the next time.
That's right.
Until then, we're just gonna be really close. Welcome to our first live discussion about things that you kind of have to know about PEI if you're thinking about moving here. Mm-hmm. Today's topic is all about communities kind of surrounding Charlottetown. So we're going to talk about Charlottetown as a whole and then kind of move out a bit around, spreading out from Charlottetown. So if you are not as up on what PEI is kind of laid out like, in the center is the greater Charlottetown area. And then part of that includes Charlottetown itself, and then also Stratford and Cornwall. And Stratford's even starting to like take over some of Mermaid. It's kind of starting to grow. It's kind of edging out to Pownal as well. So that all kind of makes up the greater Charlottetown area. I did post on the live event page a link to take you to the guide that I made up about the neighborhood. So you can get that and have it to look at as well, or you can just look at it after. And then we can go from there.
And just a quick shout out to Bernadette, who's just chiming in here as well. So I also put a zoning map, like a time zone map on the page, and we'll just keep refreshing that. So every time we do one of these, whether you're overseas, mountain time, Pacific time, etc., then we'll make sure that you have an idea of where that falls during the course of your day. Because we're going to squish in this little screen here, we're going to take turns kind of answering some questions, and Amy has a really great little presentation here that will help feed the whole idea of getting to know the island. Please, we encourage you to ask questions, and if you can't join us in real time, this post will be here. And you can chime in another time, and we'll pick it up where we're left off, or we'll continue to engage with you on the page. All
right, so let's talk about Charlottetown and the greater capital area. And please note that the definition of a city is not about how large it is, but about the types of services that they offer to a population. That is going back to like 9th grade definitions. I am such a nerd sometimes, but I remember that. The population of Charlottetown, I looked it up last night, is about 40,000. So even though it's a capital city of the province, the actual population is still quite small. When you then bring in Stratford, you add another 15,000. And when you bring in Cornwall, you add in about another 7,500. So within the greater Charlottetown area, you're talking about a population of still under 60,000. Right? So, or just over 60,000, I guess. So that's something to really keep in mind. We might have all the governmental services that are offered, but we do sometimes lack in like shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, like shopping. We really only have like a couple grocery stores.
There's a few box stores, a few name brands that you're familiar with, like the Home Senses and the Winners, and there are a couple malls and whatnot, but we're smaller for shopping. We don't have
a Costco. That's the big defining thing.
Yeah. Which is okay for a lot of reasons. Yeah. And yet it, like Amy said, we're limited in our major servicing. And they tend to stay out of the downtown core of Charlottetown, which is kind of preserved for pedestrian friendly local shops, restaurants,
offices, like lawyers, banks, those
library, that kind of thing. So the downtown core really does service anything but box stores and major shopping.
And there is some stores down there, but like one thing that we've often noticed is that they don't necessarily have great open hours for actually going and shopping. Right. So it's sometimes a frustration that we want to be able to support local, but then when can we actually go down and shop like as a family and stuff like that?
Exactly.
So just a little complaint.
The other thing that we should talk about a little bit is transit in this capital area of Charlottetown. Transit is becoming more prevalent here. We are a little slower to kind of churn out making transit and things like Uber type transportation accessible to folks. We do have a car share program here called Carry.
We don't have Uber, but we have
Carry. And Carry, I've used it several times. It's very reliable.
Yeah,
it's
I've used it.
inexpensive.
It's not that bad.
We also have cab services that are tried and true. And we do have bus schedules that run Cornwall, Charlottetown, North River, Stratford, and kind of some of those that like West Royalty and some of the neighborhooding areas. And
it's gotten a lot better.
It has gotten a lot better.
When I worked at UPEI, before my kids were born, I worked a lot with international students, and it was a very big complaint that they had to have housing within Charlottetown, because often back then, like Stratford and Cornwall weren't accessible by transit. But I am saying, like, I live out in West Royalty. My husband and I, just for fun, took the bus one time for date night, and we took it downtown, and then we took a carry home. And it was great. Like, it was pretty easy. It was pretty on time. It was pretty straightforward. So the bus system has definitely been improving, but there is still work to do, like on it, reaching out further and doing that. There is also bus service over to Summerside and then also out to Montague, but that's less often, less continuous kind of service,
And then for those who have certain accessibility needs, there's also Pat and the Elephant, which is a locally run accessible transport bus, and I believe some of the buses are, of course, accessible. Most of them are now coming in with electric buses too. So we do have a few electric buses.
And then they have the bike racks on the front
too. That's right. Yeah. So we're becoming more and more like a commuter friendly, transport friendly type of city. It's just that, and most of you are probably coming from places that have had that infrastructure for decades or as long as you've been alive or have lived there. So now, like, having grown up here and having the perspective of when none of that existed, and we both are back on the island as adults, and we're seeing this infrastructure really take off. And it's because, folks like you are coming to the island. We've got younger generations staying here, and we really need those infrastructures to carry through generations to make sure people are serviced and want to stay here and be serviced. So, it's kind of awesome to talk about, because some of that stuff we take for granted, quite frankly. A little bit.
It's true. When I was at university, I lived in Cornwall, going to UPEI, and I had to have a car. Like, it was just necessary because I would be working a job after class, and it would go until 9, and there was no bus that would take me back to Cornwall for after a 9 o'clock shift. So, yeah. That being said, like, that's the greater Charlottetown area. I do have set up for another discussion down the road to really talk about the schools. And that will focus on the schools in Charlottetown and moving out from there too. So I'm not going to talk too much about schools today.
That's fine. That's great. But please, go ahead and ask and post on our page for folks to chime in who are here and have moved here and are kind of have gone through the process that you're considering going through. Lots of good discussion, not just from us, but from everyone on the page. And that's what's so cool here, is that it's a very welcoming, inclusive community. So, and then we'll also talk more about the healthcare system here on another focused live. But for now, we have a question from Bernadette McDonald asking, what is one to do while waiting for a doctor, if you're on the doctor's waiting list, and it's not an emergency per se? So I know for my family, we don't have a family doctor as of yet, and as is the case for many, many families here. Amy, you and your family have a doctor.
We do have one.
You were also on a wait list for quite a while.
I was, yeah.
So in that instance, kind of one of the last things you want to do is go put yourself in the emergency waiting room. The province is trying to implement more and more walk-in clinics. We're using Skip the Waiting Rooms, which is an online component. We're also using Maple a lot more, which is tied into the healthcare system here on the island to help tie in nurse practitioners, clinic doctors, and pharmacists to assist with referrals and where there is not necessarily a family doctor available.
I feel like I remember there being a new walk-in clinic that actually opened up in Kensington, which wouldn't be too far from you, Bernadette.
That's right.
And I believe it might have skipped the waiting room.
Okay.
So if you haven't heard, there is, it's also at the downtown walk-in clinic, Friendly Pharmacy. They have a walk-in clinic that also uses skip the waiting room. And what it is it's an online portal to get on the list to get into the walk-in clinic that day. So they have some set aside for like people who are there at the start to give them actual spots for the walk-in. But this is an online thing. It opens up at 7 a.m. I've done it for my grandmother where she needed refills. She didn't have a doctor. I like got up that morning. I was like, Tyler, you got to get the kids ready because I got to be ready to get Grammy into the doctor today. So you just go in, you just kind of put your name, like you grab one of the slots and they call you and tell you when to head down to the doctor.
That's right.
And so you're not sitting around at the walk-in clinic for hours waiting. They're calling you. And it's kind of one of those things that they're trying to implement. I think it's a fantastic one. It's what I do if I have to get any of my kids into the doctor right away and we can't get into our actual doctor.
Right. And what we'll do is, Bernadette, to kind of further your resources here and help maybe give you some more direction. I use Maple quite a bit because I find Maple very helpful where I perhaps need a refill of a prescription or I need a prescription for something that's not necessarily an emergency. I would use Maple, the app, quite a bit, and I've had very quick response using that app. So what we will do is post those two links. So anyone that's kind of wanting to learn about what there is available here, start researching before you start making the move here, and get familiar with the app of Maple, get familiar with Skip the Waiting Room.
So I see that you're saying that Maple has a fee, but if you actually access Maple through the PEI portal rather than just going to Maple, there's actually like a special backdoor for PEI patients.
That's right. So that's because Health PEI is directly tied in with Maple as a partnership to help implement other healthcare professionals where in lieu of family doctors. So to answer your question, you'll probably see $80 fee, but just go through PEI Health period. And that's gonna, we will make sure to put that direct link on there so that it gives you proper guidance for sure.
All right, so next on our talk for Charlottetown, after we get off the whole doctor thing, and doctors, it's always a point of discussion. I totally get that. Is to kind of talk, there's several different neighborhoods of Charlottetown, and it's one of those things that it's like we all just kind of use it ubiquitously. So the first neighborhood is Brighton that I was going to talk about, and Brighton and downtown Charlottetown, they're right next to each other. Brighton is the neighborhood just next to Victoria Park. It's very old, it's very traditional, the property values are a bit higher. It's very much a walking community. So that's one of the first neighborhoods is Brighton, and then you have the downtown. Property values in those two neighborhoods do tend to be a bit higher. The properties themselves tend to have a little bit smaller lots. It's not uncommon to see I lived below, not far from downtown, and I had a lot once that was like 0.07 acres. Like it was tiny. There's just a little tiny yard, just a little bit. So it's not uncommon to see that. I will say in most of Charlottetown, the newer neighborhoods are kind of starting to get small with the lots, unfortunately. Like you are seeing some go as small as like 0.2. But I live in West Royalty. My lot is 0.4. You live in Stratford, you're on 0.3.
I know. So we're kind of grandfathered in these larger lots. And that's to say, to Amy's point, like if you're going for a new build or something brand spanking new, that's been a part of new development here. Yeah, you might have less space, but usually those bigger lots are grandfathered into older houses.
And you're going to see those larger lots in Sherwood.
Yeah.
Sherwood's another neighborhood. You're going to see some in Spring Park as well, right? Like just some of those big postage stamp yards. Yeah. You're going to see some.
I remember when I lived in Toronto, and I bet a lot of you can attest to this. Like you literally had a fence around your postage stamp, and that was it. Yeah. So 100%.
And you didn't know if you actually should justify the cost of a lawnmower. Like at one point, we just had one of those push things, like they used to have in like the 1950s. So Sherwood is definitely going to have some much larger yards and spaces like that. there is very little places left in Sherwood, in Parkdale. Brighton has like maybe 1 or 2 lots that's like coming up now, but just a lot in Brighton, I think it's like 350.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit shishi poo poo there. So if you're wanting to kind of get into a neighborhood that's a little more exclusive, then that is the place to go. But it's kind of its own little nugget of the market there for sure.
It's totally different for sure. I need to look at my thing here. So we have Parkdale, we have Brighton. The next one would be West Royalty. West Royalty is extending now into Winslow, which was incorporated and absorbed by Charlottetown a couple years ago. Within West Royalty, though, there is a little mini pocket called Lewis Park. And that's again, it's kind of just across the water from Brighton, even, or up the water from Brighton. So
actually, we can see it from the property we're sitting in right now. It's just across the water.
Yeah.
That's Lewis.
Yeah.
Lewis Point.
That is, yeah.
Great, cool.
So it again has higher property values, but the yards are good size. Not much development left to go on in there. I think I did see this week somebody listed a property in Sherwood, and it said it's like the last lot available that hasn't, one of the last ones that hasn't been built on in Sherwood has been finalized, and it is now on the market.
Wow.
So some of these core areas of Charlottetown, they've been developing for a long time. A lot of houses you're going to see are bungalows in these neighborhoods, bungalows up to 2 stories. In the newer sections of Charlottetown, like West Royalty, East Royalty, what am I thinking?
West Royalty,
East Royalty. There's a lot of split levels in
Yeah.
those ones.
Yeah.
And again, moving out to Cornwall and Stratford, you're going to see a lot of split levels. The split entry where you walk in the front door and the stairs go up and down, that's what is a very prevalent style of home. Here on PEI, you're gonna, we're seeing a lot more slabs nowadays too. Just that it's more easy and cheaper to put a slab than it is to put a foundation.
That's right.
I think it's about an extra 50,000. Is that what someone said?
To dig a
basement.
Yeah. It's cheaper to build up than to go down.
Yeah. For sure.
So for those that said, for those of you who want a very, there's lots of incentive and a lot of reasons for going with the slab. It's easy maintenance. You don't have to worry about watering entering your basement if things aren't built properly. And so there's lots of routes there. What else we got? You got a good page up here.
Yeah, so I was going to say that the 2 ways that Charlottetown is kind of starting to expand now is out to East Royalty, which is then going to start pushing towards Mount Stewart, and then West Royalty, Winslow, which is then going to start to push towards Hunter River. Beyond that, you have, just out of Stratford, you have Mermaid, which is along the Hillsborough River, so it's just up a bit from Stratford. Very much a big development area. Has a higher price point than even a lot of Stratford does.
Yep.
A lot of the nicer homes that are being developed on that side of the bridge are going up Mermaid Way.
Yep.
Cornwall, though, is starting to see a lot more development. I know that just on the way out to Cornwall, there's 3 huge apartment buildings going in just in North River.
That's right.
And then you do have a couple new developments going on in Cornwall that's really starting to grow that community. Until a couple years ago, the main highway used to go straight through the middle of Cornwall. It has since been diverted around. So now Cornwall is able to grow into one of the true communities that's not just a thoroughfare. Like that highway used to really just
rip right through.
Yeah, and lots of trucks going through there and all that. So.
No, it's true. It's and Cornwall is becoming a very desirable neighborhood for families. It's got good schools, and
it doesn't have bridge traffic.
It doesn't have bridge traffic. That's right.
Yeah.
So as Amy pointed out, all that highway is diverted for the straight through kind of effect, and then you've got Cornwall, which is really, all intents and purposes, like 10 minutes from downtown Charlottetown. 10 to 15 minutes. It's easy.
Yeah, from like royalty.
Yeah. So it's an easy trip, honestly. So when you're trying to kind of build your mental map about where the island is stretched out, let's give it perspective of like you were in Toronto, for instance, if you were going from Dundas Street down to like, I don't know, St. Clair West Station or something, that would take you an hour. And that's just in a few blocks. So the other thing we'll point out, and Bernadette here on the live pointed this out, is that there are no high rises here. We do not have that vertical skyscraper type of build. Our vertical real estate is very protected, and it's something that we kind of pride ourselves on as islanders, is having a beautiful skyline almost everywhere you go, but also we're so close to the water at almost every turn that it's so often you get a view of the water and get to experience the water and be close to a shoreline of some kind. So that area where it's a very low-rise friendly building is quite unique, and I imagine it's going to stay like that for many decades, simply because its heritage is...
it's just also cheaper to go out. We got lots of land.
I know.
Right?
We get to go.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think the biggest building that's gone up in recent years was the new residence at UPEI. And everybody just looked at it and was like, whoa, that's a tall building. Where did that come from? Yeah, it was so funny. Yeah, it was a big change for sure.
It was. Yeah.
What do I got next? So next we're gonna kind of get into moving outside of the greater Charlottetown area.
That's right.
We kind of kept this from a 20 to 40 minute drive. I know a lot of people are moving from bigger cities. The biggest thing about these drives is that you're driving the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're actually only going, 10 minutes down the road, but it takes you an hour. When we talk about a 20 to a 40 minute drive, you might have a little bit of traffic getting in and out of the city, but after that, you're just straight driving.
We do not experience traffic jams here. We do not experience hours and hours on the DVP. I hear a lot of old-timey islanders complain about 20 minutes on the Stratford Bridge. It is not a big deal. Don't let anyone tell you different, but we do not experience major traffic jams here. It's very, very...
They were doing construction just off the bridge this year, and so there has been a lot of complaints about the bridge traffic, really slowing stuff down.
But if you're used to another kind of city, then that's nothing. It's a pussycat. That way. So, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
All right, so the next one is our commutable cities. These... communities.
Commutable.
Not cities. We're talking about Hunter River. Hunter River is 15 minutes past West Royalty Winslow. It has a pharmacy, it has a gas station, it has a couple little cafe things, it has a post office, that kind of thing. It doesn't have a grocery store there, but you do have some services. The next one is going to be Mount Stewart. It is about 20 minutes past East Royalty, just along the main highway there. It has a post office. It has some little maybe cafes and stuff too. But again, it has a school. So does Hunter River. So it's another great community if you're looking for something like that.
Also has trails. I believe the Rails to Trails runs through that area. So if you like to hike or dog walk or even cross-country ski in the wintertime, you can use that.
Yeah. The next one's Crapo. So Crapo is about halfway between Charlottetown and the bridge. It does have a small little grocery store. It has a couple small cafe things. It has a post office. It has a school. So that's why we're kind of seeing these as being commutable communities. The next one is Brackley. It's just before the national park north of town. Not as much in the way of resources and things to provide the community, but it is a fairly large community to be outside of town and not have them, but because it's so accessible, and it might be a little bit more seasonal too.
We do have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry to break your thought there, from Siona Rose. Siona, you've been active on the page for quite a bit. We've had a few chats, and it's great to see you active here. So your question is...
Oh, the signal keeps dropping too. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. I think maybe we gotta... So what we're doing is we're going on bandwidth here. I just wonder next time. Sorry guys, thanks for letting us know. I think what we'll do next time is make sure we're connected directly to a Wi-Fi. We're sitting in one of our listings today because we're kind of here. So
we're here in about 5 minutes for an open house too. So yeah.
So Aaron Nicholson, thanks for joining us. Again, if the signal craps out and we don't get to your questions.
Yard.
So Siona writes, I have a question about homes and fences. Here in Ontario, we're so used to having a fenced yard, partly for privacy, and because our lots are so small, but also for our dog. I've noticed that there are very little homes that have fences there. Some HOAs require them to hide garbage and compost bins, etc. Is this due to wind, like Fiona? No. It's just because here's the thing. I think it's an interesting thing. We were just talking about how lots can be larger sizes. I think because perhaps it's a lot to fence in that large a yard, costs a lot of money, but also because people have space between their homes, they don't feel that need to like define their space and kind of put a stamp on it. And I think that might feel like it's a little bit backwards mentally, but when you come to a neighborhood where your houses have a nice yard and there's a gap between you and the next property, and they're not right in your face, then people are a little more relaxed about having those defined markers. So Siona, I would say that it's a great thing to think about.
It's Shona.
Oh, Shona, sorry, love. Thank you. Shona, it's probably a good thing to think about in your home search is to like consider financing with like home improvements, or consider budgeting in what it would cost to build a fence, even part of your yard, so that your dogs and your kids can run and be secure. If that's what you're used to, you can have those things here, but you are going to experience more space between you and your neighbors, and that will just traditionally, I think people here are just a lot more relaxed about that kind of stuff than in a city where you have really close by neighbors.
We also don't have many HOAs that put rules on it, like hiding the garbage. You
I like
the,
no fence.
My dog, when we still had him, unfortunately he used to take himself for walks, and he'd go walk around the neighborhood. And it'd be hilarious, and like I'm pretty sure the neighbors were all feeding him. So I know what you mean about having just like that free spirit.
Shona, if you come move across from me, there's a really great little house in my neighborhood across from me for sale. I have a fenced in yard, and you can just send your dogs over to me and play with my dogs. But yeah, go on.
Also, like, we don't like that. My kids just kind of like the ball goes in the neighbor's yard, they go and get it. Like, it's just very free. Like, you know, we're trying to teach them maybe don't run through everybody's backyard, but if you're running, some of our neighbors have fences and some of them don't. There is some neighborhoods that have covenants telling you what you have to have about those fences, but they are always an option depending on what you're looking for.
Oh, nice. And Aaron Nicholson says you're moving to Stratford in June. That's exciting. That's my neighborhood. I love Stratford. It's a great neighborhood community, lots of trails, lots of hiking, the beach is down the road. Like, it's just awesome. So Aaron, if you have any particular questions about Stratford, I also have, we're building our knowledge a lot about how the council is and permits and bylaws and stuff like that. So please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions about Stratford in particular. That is my sweet little area. All right, Amy, take it away. You've got more stuff.
The next three commutable communities that I wanted to mention was Montague. It is one of the major hubs of PEI. It's going to have all the services. It has a hospital that may or may not be open depending on the day. The next one's North Rustico, and I know Bernadette said that she's in North Rustico. Again, it has a little grocery store. It has a Tim Hortons. It has some other little community services and stuff available. And then the last one's Morel. And so Morel is kind of halfway between Charlottetown and Surrey. Again, it has a co-op. It has a post office. It has a liquor store. I don't know why I know that. Yeah, so those ones are the main commutable communities. I think out of all of those, North Rustico and Morel might be the furthest. You're really pushing that 40-minute mark there. The last ones that I kind of wanted to mention were close communities, and these are between 45 minutes and an hour. You are still going to have lots of people commuting from these places. There are like carpool parking lots that you can leave your car at and do like a daily carpool if you're all driving to Charlottetown together. The first one is obviously Summerside. Summerside is about 45 minutes away from Charlottetown, depending on how you're looking at it. And not far from Summerside is actually Kensington. Both of those are a little bit bigger hubs. They have big, like Summerside obviously has like all the stuff. It has a lot of the stores. It has a Canadian Tire. It has both a Sobeys and an Atlantic Superstore. It has drugstores. It has a Cineplex. It has a lot of things that small communities might have. Kensington doesn't have quite as much of those. The next community is Borden. Borden's right off the bridge. If you're coming off the bridge and maybe going Summerside way, there's a great place to stop for a snack. It's the PEI hand pie company. I have to stop there anytime we're out that way. Oh my goodness.
Time.
Love it. So good. You can buy them in Sobeys now. It's so awesome.
So now that they've kind of migrated to Charlottetown, you can get them. And
yeah,
I know we'd go by and Amy would just get a box for the family.
Yeah,
and we'd have to go into the hand pie joint. I know.
Have to get the hand pies.
That's awesome.
So Borden's there. Surrey, again, farther up east. Surrey is where you have the ferry that connects PEI to the Madeline Islands. I put Cavendish on here because it's a very common place to know for PEI, but it's not a common place for people to live. There's going to be some like year-rounders there, but a lot of it's just going to be like, I don't often go to Cavendish.
No, it's very much kind of set up as a tourist neighborhood. There's lots of markets. There's entertainment for families and kids. There's beaches. There's
not a lot going on outside of the months of June, July, August,
it's pretty
September.
quiet.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a few older homes there, etc. But yeah, it's not really a neighborhood community. It doesn't really have year-round amenities. Your closest, it will have a gas station or two, but your closest spot for amenities would be, gosh, what town?
Probably North Rustico.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, those are, it's kind of an area that's geared more towards tourism in the warmer, fairer months.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then the last one is Murray River, Murray Harbor, kind of interchangeable on those. That's down east. It's not far from the ferry, which, by the way, our new ferry arrived in Pictou this week. So we're getting our ferries back.
That's right. For those of you who are considering a visit to the island to kind of start looking around or do some home searching and whatnot, taking the ferry to here from the mainland, like Pictou County, is a really nice option. It's a great experience. Gives you a break in driving.
If you have kids,
it's fun.
It's like, it's often not any faster or slower if you're coming from Halifax way. The kids get to run around for an hour and a half while they're on the boat and, do that. So I'm very excited that hopefully the boat will be much more reliable. I don't know what we're going to call this one though, because the is it the Confederation? That's been the new ferry for like 20 years,
right? The Confederation.
Yeah. So we'll be like, hey, we get the new one. Hey, that's awesome. But now I don't know what to call it.
Nice.
I'm so confused.
That's right.
So that's kind of what I have planned for today. Our next one is going to be the last Friday of February. So it's going to be February 28th. We are going to talk renting versus buying on PEI and the role that IRAC plays in it. IRAC is the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, not the country. And they regulate both the rental market, and then there are also things that they control when it comes to off-islanders buying on PEI.
And some of you may be looking to, as an option, if you're purchasing on the island and there's an opportunity for you to have a little rental income from your primary residence, we'll talk about how those bylaws fall in with like Airbnb, certain bylaws, and having a tenant and things like that, and talk about how you're going to need that resource as a homeowner and potentially a landlord. So we'll dig a little deeper into that one. It's very informative. There's lots to learn. But in the meantime, Amy and I are going to post a couple of things just to reiterate today's chat. Amy's got a beautiful presentation. Please sign up. Where is that going?
There's a link on the event page for this live that it'll take you over to a page on my website, and then just asked you for
Just download.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, next month we have renting versus buying, and we can even kind of give a little bit of insight about what the rental market's like. It is starting to loosen up, which is great. And then in March, I have it noted that we should talk about the school system and French education. So I'm coming at that discussion as both a mother of 3 and then also as a former teacher. So I do have a bit of insight about working within the system of PEI, and I still have a lot of friends from my degree that are working in the system and what they're seeing as educators, what I'm seeing as a mom, and then also just how things are set up here, because French education is another important thing that a lot of people want to make sure that they can do.
That's right. So, and if anyone has any further questions pertaining to this video, feel free you can download this video, you can ask questions, send us direct messages if you want to have more of a chat one-on-one, and we can kind of devote a little more direct attention to your questions. And again, thanks everyone for chiming in. That's what this page is about. We want to be here as a resource. If you need a little more directly from us, then we are here for you. But this page is maintained as a kind of a resource in a community. So you guys did a great job participating today. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Totally.
On the guide is both our emails and our phone numbers are there. You can call, text, or we do have WhatsApp, but I might be like, what are you trying to sell me if you send me a message?
I use WhatsApp a little more. I am currently chatting with clients in Cornwall, England right now, who are relocating to some land that they own here on the island. So it can be super useful that way. So feel free to WhatsApp me if Amy doesn't answer you.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. We hope to hear from you again soon, and hopefully we will see you back here again in a month.
Sounds good.
Stay warm. It's snowing out here today.
Cold.
It's cold. All right. Bye, guys.
And drive safe. If you have to be on the roads, please drive safe.